Jean jacket one more time. That means part 5. Hello guys, one more time and welcome to Ring Royalty. My name is Alexis, as you already know, and today we have part number 5 of cancelled storylines. So I know this is one of your favorite sections because I've seen the comments, and we're going to refresh the dynamic of these videos very fast so we can start with the content because it's very juicy. We're talking about 5 different storylines that were cancelled or scrapped due to different reasons. Some reasons are known and others are unknown. It's something very important to point out that some of these cancelled storylines are confirmed by a source connected to the company, and some others are just rumors. So without further to say, let's start with this interesting video. First storyline we're going to talk about is Maryse, Kelly and Maria Kanellis' return in 2013. Back when WWE was going to introduce the reality show Total Divas, the original cast they had planned included original divas such as Maryse, Kelly and Maria, along with the Bella twins. However, the cancelled storyline here is, according to Maria Kanellis in an interview, the Bella twins blocked contracts from the divas that I already mentioned, and for that reason they never appear in WWE either. A lot has been said about this particular drama. I mean, later on they acknowledged it with Maryse being on Total Divas, how Nikki Bella or Brie Bella blocked her contract back in 2013, so we are not sure if it is only a rumor or it's in fact something true. The reason why this happened, of course, is not confirmed because this is just a rumor, but my take on this is it could have been very interesting and probably even more entertaining to see Total Divas if they put a group of women that we already were interested in, such as Maryse and Maria, on the first season. Maybe a lot more attention would have been drawn easily to the TV show. Also, I remember when they introduced the show, they had a Total Divas against Real Divas match at Survivor Series. So if you remember that, imagine that in the Total Divas group, instead of having newbies like JoJo or even Marie, we could have had Maryse or Kelly, former champions. I think the dynamic would have been completely different. Also, seeing Maryse against AJ Lee is something that I'm quite interested in. So old divas or OG divas against the newest ones. I mean, it's always good to see the battle of the eras. Then again, it didn't happen. I think it wasn't that big of a loss anyways, but it could have been something to stir up the pot a little bit in the division, remembering that AJ Lee was basically the only relevant woman in that division at the time. The second storyline I'm going to talk about is going to be from TNA Impact, and that is the original Beautiful People against the original Dollhouse. So we got a very mediocre rivalry between the Beautiful People and the Dollhouse, and the reason for this being scrapped was due to many factors. The first one is Taryn Terrell for some reason decided to become a religious person and quit wrestling. I have no idea why, because later on she returned wearing less clothes than ever. But I mean, religion, I guess. So with Taryn out of the picture, they included Rebel in the stable. Therefore, Mia Yim, known as Jay back then, and Maribel would have a third member in their group, that was Rebel, facing the Beautiful People, Velvet Sky, Angelina Love, and Madison Rayne. But what happened when everything was supposed to be fixed? Angelina Love got pregnant. She couldn't wrestle, so for that reason we got a weird handicap feud between only Madison and Velvet against the whole 3 members of the Dollhouse. It wasn't bad. However, it could have been one of the greatest tag team feuds ever if they had the OG members in it. Imagine Taryn Terrell, Jade and Maribel, the Dollhouse stable that caused a lot of drama and elevated the Knockouts division during the first half of 2015 against the Beautiful People, the most iconic tag team in history when it comes to women's wrestling. It would have been an interesting clash with the OG members for sure. Even though this was a big loss, I cannot blame the company or the wrestlers. Well, I can blame Taryn, but not Angelina because she got pregnant. I am pretty sure a lot of people wanted to see this feud. When it happened, it wasn't as interesting because first of all, it was 3 against 2, and then for some reason they include Awesome Kong in the Dollhouse. Don't even get me started with that part, but it wasn't as magnificent as it should have been. 2 of the best women's tag team that the Knockouts division ever had, but not with the original members and not with the memorable feud that we wanted it to be. And speaking of tag team wrestling, this third storyline that was cancelled is one that a lot of fans wanted to see, and that is the IIconics against the Bella Twins. I still can't believe the IIconics are not a team anymore. I mean, that was such a bad move. As well as the Beautiful People against the Dollhouse in TNA, this feud had potential to be one of the most iconic, no pun intended, women's tag team feuds in WWE history. We had the IIconics, who were really over when they won the tag team titles at WrestleMania, against the Bella Twins, one of the most popular women's tag teams ever. The reason why this was cancelled is because Nikki cannot compete anymore due to neck injuries. Putting that aside, imagine how the IIconics would have benefited from this feud. Their first rivalry after winning the titles at Mania would have been with a historic tag team as the Bella Twins. It would have hyped them up a lot more, and their title reign might not have been a joke. I mean, we all know the IIconics had a terrible title reign, and that was purely because of booking, because they have all the talent in the world and they are great characters, but they did nothing with them. And I think the reason for this is they planned the Bellas against the IIconic, and when that couldn't happen due to injury, they had no idea what to do with them. And that's why they were just floating on Raw and SmackDown, facing random tag teams and being involved in meaningless matches over and over again. The main opponents that they had planned for the IIconics were not there, so they just decided to drop the ball on the team and their title reign. For me, this could have been a great feud. It would have benefited not only the IIconics, maybe the Bellas too, because they are already popular, but they could show that they still got it. They were becoming better wrestlers, and probably they could have a very interesting feud with the IIconics to be cemented in the history books. I mean, it could have benefited both of them. Sadly, it never happened, and now not only the Bella Twins are retired, but the IIconics are not a team anymore. So the possibility of that happening in the future is completely non-existent. Such a shame, but that's reality. The next storyline I'm going to talk about is the first time AEW is going to be mentioned in this saga or this series of cancelled storylines, and that is the Nightmare Collective angle. If you don't watch AEW, let me put some context into it. So Brandy Rhodes was leading a stable with Awesome Kong that was called the Nightmare Collective, where they used to basically cut their opponent's hair off for some reason that they never explained. One day, they took a girl from the crowd and shaved her head bald, similar to the Straight Edge Society did with CM Punk back in 2010. Then that girl named Mel joined the team, and it was the Nightmare Collective, Brandy, Mel, and Kong against no one, basically, because the storyline had no guidance. There was not a clear path for any of the characters. They were just randomly put together, and it was shown on camera that they had no idea what to do with this stable. They didn't even have one rivalry before breaking up. I mean, that's how bad and unprepared this angle actually was. Then they put a guy named Luther in. For some reason they needed to add a man to the stable. I mean, it didn't work anyways. The reason why this was cancelled is because not only the fans hated the storyline, but the wrestlers themselves didn't feel comfortable being in that stable anymore. According to Brandy Rhodes, the original plan was for Brandy to be the manager of Awesome Kong, but Kong wasn't feeling good physically for some reason. I think she had some issues with her back, so she couldn't wrestle that often, and they needed to put a muscle or an active wrestler in the stable. That's why they decided to bring Mel and become this Nightmare Collective thing into a faction rather than just a wrestler and a manager. And it didn't work. Brandy Rhodes slowly started to transition to her managerial role with Cody Rhodes, and then quietly AEW disbanded the Nightmare Collective, and it was never talked about it again. I think this was one of the best decisions they ever made, because that team was hideous. There was absolutely no logical explanation for what they were doing. Even though they had two big women like Kong and Mel, they didn't use them to their full potential. All around, this angle was messy. I am glad they dropped it. The only thing that I'm sad about that this angle was dropped is the fact that Awesome Kong was not seen in AEW again after that. Probably it's because of the back injury. Then again, Awesome Kong is one of a kind. I would love to see her back in the rings at some point. I know she's doing Glow and all of these different stuff and probably she's busier than usual, but I mean, come please return to AEW at least for 1 or 2 more matches. The final story I'm gonna talk about is probably one of my favorites, the one I would have loved to see the most out of this list. And when you hear it, you're gonna agree with me, because that is Asuka against Trish Stratus at NXT TakeOver Toronto for the NXT Women's Championship. If you remember correctly, when Asuka was undefeated and in her reign as NXT Women's Champion, she faced the returning Mickie James at NXT TakeOver Toronto for the title. Now, this was a big deal and I was excited, as well as many, because we haven't seen Mickie James in a WWE ring for over 5 years. The match was outstanding, but that was not the original plan. The original plan was for Trish Stratus, hometown girl, to return and face Asuka for the NXT Women's Championship. That match, I mean, on paper looks like a banger, and I'm sure in the ring it would have been like completely fireworks and everybody's mind would be blown by now. The thing is that Trish Stratus got pregnant with her second child, and that's why this couldn't happen and it was scrapped. They needed someone to replace Trish in this situation and they chose Mickie. For me, that was a great choice, because Mickie James is probably the person that you associate the most with Trish Stratus anyways. Despite the love and the respect that I have for Mickie James and her historic career, all of her resume, I'm still curious what could have happened if Trish was the one facing Asuka for the NXT Women's Championship. I'm pretty sure that Asuka was going to retain her championship, since it's very unlikely that Trish was going to win it in her return match, because she was not going to stay in NXT. Then again, 2 huge names like Trish and Asuka colliding in one match, a match that has never happened until this day. Just tell me down in the comments if you don't think Asuka against Trish Stratus could have been a historic match. Once again, pregnancy getting in the way of a possible great match and great feud. I mean, I guess having children is one of the most beautiful things in life, so I am not going to say anything bad about it. However, I'm still waiting to see that match. I mean, Trish is retired, but I mean, she can come back for 1 more match. And Asuka is still champion and one of the most important women in the division now, so why not? Trish, if you want to return, Asuka's waiting for you, or even Sasha Banks. So think about it. Alright, so this was part 5 of Cancel Storylines. We've covered 3 different companies this time: WWE, TNA Impact, and AEW. So now it's your turn to give me your comments. Tell me, what do you think down below? Right, what do you think about each of these storylines? Which would you have loved to see? Which ones were not important in your book? I mean, all is valid here. Once again, I want to thank you for your support. It means a lot. We're growing very, very fast. The family is growing. I think I need a name for us, for this family, for my fans. Maybe the Royals? Well, I have to think about it better, so give me some time. If you have any idea how to call this beautiful family, I mean, leave it down below too. And this was everything for this week. Here's my Instagram. If you want to talk to me, I always reply, so feel free to do it. And I will see you guys next week. Goodbye.